Hello, and welcome to episode 406 of the Sunday New York Times Read Along. My name is Neil Parekh. Sri Srinivasan is with us this week. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and the Digimentors website. Please like, comment, share, retweet, do all the things you do to make sure people find today's show. We have several great topics lined up for today. They include the latest from President Trump, and we'll certainly talk about his use of subterfuge getting out of Turkey on Air Force One. We'll talk about immigration, and we'll take a closer look at the immigration report where Americans trace their ethnicity from. That was in last week's paper. It's a really great insert that we want to dig a little deeper on. And then we'll also talk about the ongoing debate of young versus old, particularly how it's playing out in politics, but it's also playing out in other fields as well. So we want to get your thoughts on that in the workplace and in medicine, social media, etc. We have gift links for articles on all of these topics on our website. If you go to digimentors.group, you will find the episode page right on the front page. So you can click on that and get gift links to all of these articles about all of these topics. And we certainly encourage you to do that. We also have a PDF of the immigration report if you want to check that out. We want to just give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Muck and Graphic History Company. Thank you so much for your support. And thank you to Digimentors. That's of course, the production firm, the social media and digital firm that Sri started with his friend Andrew Lee several years ago. Now, without further ado, let's bring on our co-host, Sri Srinivasan. Sri, good morning. We caught you reading the paper.
Yes, caught reading.
What a strange thing to do on Sunday mornings.
Yes, people say, hope you have a relaxing Sunday out here. We do this show at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, and then I turn my attention to our newsletter, which is on Substack, srinet.substack.com. So we have a busy day, lots to read, lots to talk about. And if you're here for the first time, thank you for joining us. If you're a returning member of the family, thank you. We have been doing this for 10 plus years, 400 plus episodes, 275 guests, including 95 from the New York Times. And what we do is we look through the paper and we talk about what's going on and we get your input. And we're able to do this with the magic of StreamYard, the tool we use. So you're about to see as we greet our viewers. So here is Pradnya pouring more coffee in Silver Spring, Maryland. And if you are watching on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, you can watch and comment now, and we'll be able to bring in your comments. And you can also tag your friends so they can join us live or later. That's a really good way to spread the word, not just about the show, but what we're trying to do here, fighting misinformation, disinformation. And this is not just about the New York Times, Neil. This is about supporting journalism. And so we tell everybody, subscribe to a paper, digital or physical, somewhere in the world. It doesn't have to be the New York Times. It should be your paper that you can subscribe to. It makes a difference. Here's Ken Fisher watching from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And Ellen's watching from the Upper East Side. And we'll give Neil a chance to check in with this wonderful viewer.
This wonderful viewer, for those who may not know, or people who might be watching for the first time, is Sudha Parekh, my mom, one of our most loyal viewers, watching from Hastings on Hudson. It's been a while, so hi, Mom. How you doing? Yes, and I want to let everyone know I did mention on the show a few weeks ago that we're doing a 5 o'clock Sunday call, and we have kept that up. Now, We do talk during the week as well, but it's nice for me, my mom, and my sister to take a few minutes. Mom, thank you for watching as always. For everyone who is watching on replay, thank you so much for coming back to the show. We know that 8:30 a.m. Eastern time is not everybody's best time, and particularly for folks on the West Coast, some people sleep in, but we have a number of people who wake up at 5:30 to watch the show series. So wherever you are and whatever you're doing, if you're watching the replay or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, if you're on Spotify, you can even watch the video. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, we're very grateful. And speaking of thank yous, there's Paula Kiger watching from Tallahassee, longtime producer of the show. And she was a guest host for the 400th episode, which we did a few weeks ago. Folks, we're going to just flip through the paper and we have a lot to talk about. There's that 400th episode. There's Paula. And we had Tom Jolly, the New York Times print editor, Wayne Camadoy, art director, and Mike Connors, who runs the printing plant, all together with us. It was so much fun to do that episode. And we're so grateful to everybody who watches and supports us. The easiest things you can do are spread the word. And also, by the way, sign up for Neil's email. Once a week, he sends out an alert about what's coming up, but what you really want is his gift links all in one place. And you can get that in the newsletter. And you can also get that on our website. So if you go to digimentors.group, you'll see an NYT read along button. And there you can find our episode. But he also has a tiny URL that he uses to tell people for each episode. So today's is tinyurl.com/406 gift links. 406 gift links, and it's all lowercase.
And Sri, in fact, we've made it easier for people to find the show. If you go to our website, you don't even have to look for the link at the top where it says NYT Read Along. We're putting each show right on the front page as we get it ready on the website. So you'll find that show there. We'll keep that up for a few days, Sri, until we're ready for the next show.
Love it.
So that people can get right to it.
Sure. And I want to say hi to Diane Stefani watching from Margate, New Jersey. And she's helping us by supporting us in a new way. And that's through our Patreon account. And we're going to show you how to access that at patreon.com/Sreenet, SREENET. If you go there, you will see you can pitch in $1 a month, $2 a month, whatever you think this show is worth to you. And not just the show, it allows us to do the newsletter. It allows us to do my 30 group WhatsApp collection or community of groups that specialize in baseball and hip hop and talking about AI and all of that you can find on patreon.com/Sreenet. And Diane is one of our most recent supporters, and she's chipping in a couple of bucks a month for us, and we appreciate that. All of this is not so that we can get rich, but so that we can justify this time to our families and our colleagues that this is what we're doing. So we appreciate everybody who is able to make a donation. We know not everybody is able to do that. And we want to say hi to Miriam watching from Hell's Kitchen in New York City. Welcome, Miriam. And look at this, Chris Gorman's watching from New York, New York. I'm just going to, since you mentioned it, a town so good, they named it twice. There you're seeing the East River, the UN headquarters, and Chris is a few blocks up from there, and that's Roosevelt Island and Long Island City over there. That's New York City on a beautiful day in August, not as hot as it is in some parts of Europe right now, and very, very scary to see what's been going on there. So I'm going to just start by just looking at yesterday's paper. I like to just see the headlines and see what the changes are or anything that's happened. Let's see. Pleading guilty, Mangione gives details of plot and lays out the CEO killing. Admission in U.S. court. His team asked to dismiss the state case. And just curious, Neil, what you thought of that. He has so many fans who wanted to take this to trial and have him be kind of poster child as he's become for their frustration with late stage capitalism.
I mean, oftentimes when you have a situation like this and someone takes the the guilty plea, they're looking for a lesser sentence. I'd be curious to see what were the options that he had in front of him. It's really interesting, Sri, in terms of that whole kind of support for what he did. And even the news media, I think, plays that up every time there's an insurance story where someone's being denied coverage or there's some major problem. I don't know if they actually say it explicitly, Sri, but I almost hear the words. This kind of explains why Mangione did what he did. Have you gotten that impression as well
Oh
through the
yeah, for
media?
sure, for sure. By the way, I see Chris is waving from 30 blocks away, and you're right. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. They also played up how he looks and all those photos of him shirtless. All of that's part of the mythology of Mangione. That will, of course, now that he's pleaded guilty and the machinations of the law come in, that will be a very different way, I think, that this is portrayed. I'd like to see how that goes. Debbie Bernick is watching from a stormy DC, physically and metaphorically. Thank you for saying hello. AI cheating has swamped online classes. Teachers searching for practical solutions. Some of you know I was a professor of journalism for 25 years, including 20 years at Columbia Journalism School. And people ask me, do you miss being in the class full time? I now teach a lot, but not at the university full time. And I say I don't miss it in part because I don't know how to handle or how we should handle AI in a profession where we're judging people, Neil, on their writing and their use of photography, videos, all of that. Even if they don't use AI, you will think they're using AI when they're, all of that stuff is just so frustrating. I'm glad I'm not teaching full time. And I know many of my colleagues are struggling with this and friends around the world who teach. This is a problem for them.
Another issue though, Sri, we've seen this. There's one of the groups that you mentioned earlier focuses on AI. When you upload actual content you've written, the apps that are supposed to catch AI assume the human content is AI. So you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
100%. That's a story here in business yesterday. This is the business story yesterday. This AI detector works well on text, on images, not so much, or much less. So I don't think any of them work that well on text anyway. So that's a problem. Here's another AI story from yesterday on the front of the art section. And it is they want to build AI superstars, designers at a new crop of creative studios, create fake personas they hope real people will love. Are they distorting culture or mirroring it? And here you can see these people are all fake. This creator, this creator, this creator, this creator. And if you were just looking at it, I couldn't tell you that this is fake just looking at this person here. That looks like a real person. And
Or
that's
the
part
guy
of
in
the
the
issue.
corner.
Yeah, the guy in the corner. Folks, tell us what you think about AI, what's happening. I know there's so much interest that people have. Good morning to the New York Readalong family. New York Times Readalong family, says Stephen Kaplan. Coffee in hand, enjoying a beautifully breezy morning here, waving from Ramsey, New Jersey. Have a great day. Linda is watching from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Thank you. And Stefan says, so interesting. I learned the other day that so many components are being bought up in order to build these giant AI data centers and more, that many things, including external micro drives are in shortage because of all of the stuff that's going on with AI. So imagine that a consumer, Neil, or a prosumer like our friend Stefan is, he's a creator himself, like wants to buy something that you think will be only affecting consumers, is now part of the giant data center problem and the opposite of the glut, the shortage that's happening in these.
One other note on AI, Sri, in terms of understanding. I mean, we want to focus on misinformation, disinformation. We want people to be educated consumers of content. But I can't tell you how frustrating it is when I upload a graphic that hasn't been touched by AI, and LinkedIn in particular wants to put an AI, label on it. Or when I promote the read along, I get Instagram notices saying this is branded content. You need to, label it as such. And I'm thinking, what's the branded content? It's just me and Sri.
They think that we're working with the New York Times, and we work with them in a sense that we just like any news show, we have partners, but we don't. No money exchanges hands. We're doing this because we believe in covering news, and we use the New York Times as a lens to it. But it is not that kind of partnership. Here's a story, Neil, that I missed online and in the paper yesterday. In thawing Arctic, beavers invade, innovate, and renovate. Isn't that interesting that beavers in the Arctic are going there? That's part of the climate change I mentioned with what's going on in Europe. And I saw Lippy Roy in person jogging by yesterday, and now I
Really?
see her on screen watching with us. Dr. Roy, thank you for being here. Thank you for fighting medical misinformation as you
Yes.
do on all your shows and on TV. She did such great work during COVID, and she continues to do that. We truly appreciate you. Thank you very much.
I'd say, Sri, the other thing that is just, it's always fascinating when we get people watching from around the world, from wherever they're watching from. Usually with the show, we have a great international audience, and that's why we don't focus on sports so much with the
Mhm.
news. We try and keep it more high level.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the reason we do that. You're right. And here's Chachachi watching from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. She and I were in person for our episode the Sunday of MLK Day last year, 2025, the day before the inauguration of Trump 2. And it seemed like a very long time ago and very far away. Here is Lippy saying, yes, it was a good run yesterday. That's part of how she keeps healthy. And Sudha says AI is being abused by some people. If someone is calling from a family and then they're in financial trouble asking for money, that poor person's voice is exactly like that person. She's talking about voice cloning, and that's
Yes.
such a serious issue. And one of the ways in which AI is damaging people and people all around us. So we are going to just go in and take a look at the Sunday paper. I'm going to just look at the front page, and then we're going to look at the various sections, and then we can dive in depending how much time we have. Please tell us how your Sunday is going. Tell us where you're watching from, and tell us your opinion on the news. This is your chance to share what you're thinking with the wider public here on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on digimentors.group. Everybody should be following us. And Neil's Instagram is great at Neil Parekh. Follow him there. And we want to get as many people to know about this show as possible. Let's see the lead story in the Times. Cyclospora reveals flaws in the food safety system. Trump administration delayed a rule that might have sped up the response. Well, this is what you get, folks, for minimal government, reducing government, this idea that government is bad. Well, this is only the government can fix this. No amount of private companies or organizations are going to make a difference. And a lab in Michigan where cyclospora has sickened more than 12,000 people and contributed to 2 deaths. Have you started eating lettuce, or are you still waiting, Neil?
Uh, I am eating lettuce from time to time,
No, you don't
but
eat it
we're
in
very,
normal conditions. That's right. You
I
don't eat
do
it.
occasionally, but very careful with where we get it from.
Now you have an excuse. Oh, look at this comment from YouTube. Trump doesn't eat salad, so he doesn't care. That's true.
That's yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, we're
Stan
laughing, but we
Gurko
should be crying.
195.
Yeah, we'd be crying if it wasn't. And Lippy says, "Thank you. Far too much medical misinformation. Childhood vaccines, women's health, infection breakouts, like we're just been talking about." And Seishu is tuning in from Boston. Picked up the Globe because I knew you'd be covering the New York Times this morning. Oh, that's so nice, Seishu. He is in Boston, so he's reading the Boston Globe. Pick up a paper, folks, somewhere in the world today. Journalists are working very hard to get you accurate news. How about this story? How Russia has plotted to exert control in tiny Moldova, training on interfering in votes and $1,000 stipends to priests. And we know the
Wow.
Russian government has spent millions of dollars giving money to American influencers. This all came out in the last couple of years. Some of the most famous broadcasters and creators and influencers are getting money from to spew all this Russian propaganda, and they're doing that there. So they're doing it here. So of course they'll do it in their neighboring countries, places like Moldova. After 5 years ruling Afghanistan, new challenges above after Pakistan airstrikes. One of the things we haven't noted here very often, if at all, Neil, is or in American media, there's a kind of war between Pakistan and Afghanistan going on right now. And look at these are not American airstrikes, these are Pakistani airstrikes affecting Afghanistan. And threats are emerging to the Taliban's hegemony. So that's an interesting story, and wondering how that will turn out. U.S. prosecutor targeted a firm with judge ties is another story here. And the Castro link to smuggling becomes an envoy to the U.S. So we have Raul Rodriguez Castro with his grandfather Raul on May Day parade in Havana last year. So I don't understand this. We have relations now that he's an envoy to the U.S. Maybe they don't mean an ambassador, and they mean an. Have you read the story, Neil? I've not read
I
the
have
story.
not. No, no.
Okay. And then here's a sad story, kind of reflection on so many cross currents, Neil, of today's world. We're seeing here that this professor in Cambridge, who was the youngest
Yes.
black man to become professor at Cambridge, they identified problems with his bio and his life story, and he resigned. And then he was found dead a few days later. And as after professor's death, questions for Cambridge. So I have a couple of thoughts on this that I want to share.
Please.
I don't know the circumstances of his, of everything that's happened, but viewing from afar, I've seen this as kind of a perfect storm for people who want to project their views onto this, especially people on the right who've been attacking Cambridge, attacking universities all over the world. Hey, look at this. This is what happens. You hire unqualified people of color. This is what you get. Well, in this particular case, there's blame to go around in many directions, including at Cambridge. And part of his life story that he told was that he ran something like 35 marathons in 30 days. And that itself would have been enough for me to pause and say, wait a minute, how is that possible? And even if it was possible, why would you do it? What does that say about you that you could do it, that you did do it? And what happens is that well-intentioned people who want to make sure there is more diversity of thought, of experience in classrooms, want to look for kind of outlier stories and bring them in. But instead of bringing in the youngest, the most marathony person to be your professor and make a big deal out of it, why not go out and get somebody who isn't as much of an outlier, who's been working for years in their scholarship, and then promoting them and making sure that they are seen and read and part of your university. These outliers are the problem, these kind of dramatic stories. So people hire them and then they fall. And I mean, if they fall, then they fall like this, and the right wing then tars everybody and says, see, this is why diversity is bad. But this is not representative of any of that. And that's what's so frustrating to me, Neil. I'd love to hear your thoughts and everybody who's watching too.
I appreciate that, Sri. This is actually a very complicated topic, I think. My when I first saw it, and I had that first reaction, not really knowing the details, but just hearing about the issues with the biography and the background credentials. That's kind of one layer of it, one stream. But I want to bring in a post that our friend Walter Grayson shared. He was our guest last week when you were gone, my guest co-host. We had a great time last week. But he shared a post from Kay Whitehead, who actually has been on the show several years ago, and she's a professor in Baltimore. She's the president of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. They're the ones that put on Black History Month. So I just want to read a little bit of what she put on Facebook because I found it very powerful. If you're not in the academy, if you're not Black or brown or woman or both, if you've never sat in a faculty meeting and had your words stolen by others, if you've never code switched so much that you forgot the sound of your own tongue, if you've never been lifted up as the first and then left to rot as the only, if you've never poured all of who you are into your class and then read your course evaluations, if you've never sacrificed pieces of your academic soul for tenure and then sacrificed even more to become the tenured of tenured, and it goes on like this for a bit. If you've never had colleagues who published less but were celebrated like they published more, then you will never know why this hurts. To be clear, I didn't know Professor Arday, and I only know a little about his story, but his death hurts. Here's my question. Who holds us when the world doesn't, because the world never has and the world never will? Wow. I think to me, what I take away from this, Sri, is it's something that, outside observers will see one thing, but in particular, academics of color see it from a very different perspective, see how much pressure and how he was treated compared to other academics who have had similar issues with their biography, with their academic scholarship. I'm not saying that what Jason Arday did was right, or that he didn't, I'm not in a position to judge what he did, but I think the disparate treatment of different academics is in line with what we see in 2026 America and the world.
100%, Neil. The attacks, says Chitachi, came from a place of already believing that he did not belong at Cambridge and was substandard in nature. Often, many in these academic spaces are just waiting to pounce on people they consider the others. And she says she knows Kay. And yeah, Sonia. Yeah, that's great. Here's our friend Mary C. Curtis. That professor was relentlessly attacked in the British tabloid with their own narratives. Meanwhile, Stanford president Mark Tessier-Levine, a white male, was allowed to resign after manipulating images and data. Definitely different standards. That's absolutely true. That's, by the way, the story that was broken by a student journalist at Stanford. And I was in Stanford the day that headline ran in the paper, President Resigns. And that story was written coincidentally and broken by Theo Baker, who is the son of two guests we've had on the show, Susan Glazer and Peter Baker from the New York Times and from the New Yorker. And here we are seeing all kinds of comments coming up. And Chitachi says exactly, Sri. Miriam says the attacks on the Cambridge professor were unrelenting. And lots of people weighing in. Thank you for being here. This is Walter's comment that Neil's about to read.
I know that, so his lead up to Kay's comment, I know this machine, this monster that grinds the best people into dust for their audacity to excel.
Beautifully put. Yeah.
For those in the back, I know this machine, this monster that grinds the best people into dust for their audacity to excel. That's our friend Walter Grayson sharing Kay Whitehead's post.
Let's move on to these stories, and then if anyone knows about the Castro story, I want to hear about it. Pradnya says, "Is anything good happening in the world?" Oh, that's a good question. Neil, what's something good in your life that you want to tell us about?
That's a quick transition, Sri. I need a moment to think about
that. Yes,
of
course you do.
I'll say we do have a good thing happening. We have a friend of Pam's from high school. Her daughter is 24 now, graduated from college. She is on a train at this very moment coming from Connecticut down to DC to spend a few days with us. The highlight is taking Emily, our 13-year-old, to an MCR concert. I'm going to let that sit for anyone who might know My Chemical Romance, which is a
Oh,
band from
yeah.
a couple of years back.
Oh, yeah, many years ago. I mean, I've heard of them. I
Right?
don't know their music, but the fact that a 13-year-old today is listening to My Chemical
Yeah,
Romance, that's amazing.
yeah.
That,
So
yeah.
and I will say she had a Emily had a Weezer T-shirt on the other day, and I never listened to Weezer, so it's just always interesting how these things go. But we're looking forward to having her come and their relationships. Three, I'll just share real quickly. We've been getting together with these friends of Pam's every year around Christmas time, and we watched Marina grow up since she was 3 years old. So it's just so great that our daughters are good friends as well.
Oh yeah, that's so special, and those generational family ties are so important. And whenever you can make that happen, you should. I've had what's going on good in my. I think Prady was asking kind of in the whole world, but we are sharing what's happening in our worlds. In my case, I want to share that my brother and his family are visiting from are visiting from Dubai, where, as you know, so many problems are going on right now with the war and everything else. But I'll just show you one photograph. This is a photograph I'm going to show you of my brother and a friend of ours. And this is a chance to emphasize another thing that we like to have people do is to go to museums. And here you will see, if I can pull this up here, that's my brother on my left, on your right, you can see him. He's the one with the good hair. And we went to see this amazing show called Frida and Diego. And this is about Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera in at MoMA. And I encourage everybody who can get here to go see that show and understand the lives of both Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera. And that's our friend Sanjay Dodamani, who's a doctor entrepreneur, and he joined us. He came all the way from Dallas for a weekend in New York. And by the way, all this stuff that people talk about, how New York is now so dangerous and so many terrible things are happening here. The streets are full, the museums are full, the restaurants are full. New York City has not fallen apart 7 months later after the arrival of Zoran Mamdani, and that's a good thing. Going back to our comments earlier, Lippy says so many women physicians of color have left academic medicine because of gender bias. She's naming several people, just a few who've left academic positions to launch their own companies, write books, etc. This ties into our earlier conversation. Whatever anybody has done, says Naomi, doesn't justify whatever has been happening. This is Neil's linking to Walter Grayson's comments. Thank you for that. And and here is Chitachi saying, sounds like a great show. I'll have to get to New York City soon if I can. Yes, absolutely. Let us know when you're in New York. And here's Naomi sharing a piece of good news. Our rock star rescue pup, Janice Joplin, what a name, is recovering from a terrifying medical emergency, and nothing scarier than having your fur babies need medical attention, especially if you've had human babies, and all the attention and love and scariness that happens with that. To then have that on top of it is another thing entirely. Here's something Neil is showing us, the latest from Trump. Over to you, Neil.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we covered some of the hot topics this week. Over the last week. I mean, it's almost like what do you choose from in terms of the news coming out of the White House and this administration. The first thing really is the his getting out of Turkey on that plane, the subterfuge around getting into a food container catering cart and going from one plane to another. So, Sri, I want to first ask you. I'm sure that you were following that. What was your take on that episode?
The interesting part of that, there's so many angles to that story, including the fact that Marco Rubio and the entire press corps were served up as decoys, so that if there was an
Yeah,
Iranian assassin or Iranian some kind of attack going to happen, they would have attacked that plane. And I totally understand. This is not about Trump. That the president needs to be saved, and that's the priority, and the Secret Service will do anything to do that. You experienced some subterfuge when you were covering President Clinton and his trip to India and Pakistan, and you should tell that story. But the problem here is the lies afterward, right? It's okay that they did it at that moment, but all the reasons why they had to do it, because of Trump's love for this useless plane that was gifted to him that has all these problems, the fact that he wanted to fly the plane to show American troops that, the lies around it, that's the problem. And if you're an American journalist covering your president, to suddenly realize that you were a target and didn't even know. Like, wouldn't it, some of them, their families would be so upset, including, by the way, right-wing journalists and people. So it's not like, oh, they'd only get rid of the left-wing media, so-called left-wing media. There were people who are, people who love Trump in there who would have been sacrificed just to, because of all the other lies that were part of it.
And so I'm showing on our screen a section of our website for this show. You can find it if you go to digimentors.group and look for this show right on the front page. We have gift links to all of these articles, including one on 3 presidents who obscured their risky travel plans. Clinton was one of them. A Times Insider piece, how do you report on a presidential ruse? And then 3, in terms of the bigger news around, from Trump this week, the Kennedy Center board is putting his name back on the building, restored and renovated by President Trump, which is going back on that decision, legal decision from a while back. But yeah, you mentioned in terms of the Clinton trip. So I was a reporter for News India Times 26 years ago when President Clinton went to South Asia. That's a picture. I'm kind of third from the left. You see President Clinton second from the right. That picture was taken at the Taj Mahal. I was on the C-130 that they had go from Mumbai to Lahore, going in when he went to visit Pakistan. And Joe Lockhart wrote a very good piece on Facebook that I shared with my own recollection, where President Clinton, we all assumed he was in the Gulfstream jet that would have been Air Force One, but when it landed, everyone got off, and then the jet taxied away, and another jet landed right behind, and the president walked off without fanfare, without a red carpet, and it was all part of the ruse. But the difference, as you pointed out, as Joe Lockhart said, he actually briefed the press ahead of time, the key press, to let them know this was happening. That, for matters of security, we're going to approach Pakistan in this way. But it certainly was interesting when we were in the press room watching the footage. We then watched the footage of how he got on the plane in Mumbai, and we all realized we missed it. He walked underneath the plane and went into a second plane. So it's not the fact that there was subterfuge, it's the cover up, and it's, not briefing appropriate people on that issue.
And even if you can't do it in real time because it's all happening in real time, you owe people, you have to tell them. And they were willing to sacrifice little Marco, which is, of course, also interesting.
Stephen Miller was also on that list. So I'm not,
So they were, yeah, and we know how much Trump loves him. The Raul Castro noted in New York Times, his grandson of the ex-president Raul Castro, and he's secret envoy with in talks with Trump. A headline from today's Washington Post was about Trump's wanting to redesign America's warships. It's being considered, but it would be exorbitantly expensive and take a lot of time. This is a guy who has never been in the military, who says he knows more than anybody else about everything. And by the way, Neil, that's all steampunk technology, basically going backwards. He loves catapults. I don't know why this is doing this, but he loves catapults, and he has this idea. So one naval officer many years ago said to him, we need catapult technology, not the modern technology. And so he's on a quest to cost us billions of dollars to take out new tech and put in old tech. It just doesn't make sense. And Sudha says, so many reporters are traveling President Clinton, but Neil was selected in a pool of 4. Neil was the president all the time during the trip to India and Pakistan. Well done.
just to clarify, when we were on the trip, when there were excursions, every day there was a different pool that covered the president if it was a intimate space. So one day I was in a group of 4 to cover the president's.
Neil, don't fact check your mom. This is good. She thinks you were there every day, so
I
that's
was the only
good.
one of 4 reporters on the trip.
Exactly.
Me and John King. I mean, that
Yeah,
was
exactly. Exactly. Whatever became of John King? No, I'm kidding, folks. We were watching the
yeah, right.
the primaries, and he was, of course, all over it. Trump, a malignant narcissist, couldn't care less about anyone. And Ellen says, "Yay, mom!" That's so cool. Proud mama says Pradnya, and yay, mom says
Yep.
Ellen. All right, let's keep going, folks. We have about 15 minutes or so left on the show. Are you tagging your friends? Have you texted your friends to watch right now on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, as well as digimentors.group? Just go there. Right on the front page, you'll find a link to our show. Jump into our show. Get all the free links. New York Times has changed its policy now. And
Yes.
if you know anyone with a subscription, they can send you unlimited links, gift links that last 30 days. Earlier, I, as a subscriber, could give out 10 links for 14 days. So they have exponentially increased access to the New York Times, and people can get this, and you don't have to feel like, oh, you're jumping a paywall or anything. This is what they are doing. They want this to be part of their business. It is part of their business. So you should definitely tell your friends and have them look at it for sure, because that's what they want. And Neil has been able to share so many gifts. Like, Neil had to be careful. He only had 10, and now a month, and now he has an unlimited supply. So
I'm taking
definitely.
full advantage of it, Sri. We have these links to the immigration report. We had the link last week, how a nation of immigrants traces its roots. But we also added to that, and we have the PDF, which we'll show in a moment. These graphics. I want to, because this was inside the paper last week. But we also added Trump's immigration policy echoes 1920s turn against certain newcomers. U.S. leaders limited immigration amid economic and social turmoil. Historians see similarities in Trump's crackdown, with a catch: he's doing it without Congress. And then there's this story, Sri, that I had missed. ICE plans to give officers gloves that can deliver electric shocks. The Department of Homeland Security described the gloves as a de-escalation device, but critics said they can encourage agents to use more force.
Yep.
That is definitely worth taking a look at. And yes, Amy, I love the unlimited links as well. It definitely has changed our approach to the show. It makes it much easier to give the content that we want to share. So here's that PDF that I was going to mention real quick, Sri. Again, we looked at the front page last week, but we did not get to the inside, and it was a shame, because these graphics, which I'm going to zoom in on, are incredible. An American story told by Americans. It shows kind of areas where different groups trace their ethnicity, and if you look at inside as well, the 2-page spread. Just look at the graphics in terms of different cities: New York City and Detroit, Chicago. They really did a lot, and the online version is really good as well. It's a very interactive map. You have these charts on the bottom. The online will show real quickly is really good. So I encourage everyone to check it out. It's at you can get the link from our website, and we'll show that in just a moment. We'll bring that up here so that we can do that. Sorry for the transition. We got it going from one share to another. It's not as smooth as it used to be, but we've got this. Check this out, Sri, in terms of the online treatment. We love print, but we also want to show online when it's really good. How a nation of immigrants traces its roots. When you scroll down, it'll show you the different regions: African Americans, Scandinavians, Mexicans in yellow. Chinese people were barred from entering the country for decades, but new arrivals are spreading beyond historical Chinatowns. some people, including descendants of long ago English, Welsh, and Scotch Irish, mostly in the Appalachians. So you can see all of this, and then these graphics.
Does South Asia make it, Neil?
I don't believe that South Asia made it. No,
No, that's too bad.
in a particular city. But these are the details. If you see
Wow,
on the
amazing,
screen,
amazing.
right? The graphics. Just kudos to the Times for this kind of visual journalism. I love it.
That's very well done. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm glad. And you too can get full access to it if you go to digimentors.group right on the front page there, or if you sign up for Neil's email, which he sends out once a week. And the other good thing that I've discovered, I'm so happy, you can share New York Times recipes now for the same unlimited number for 30 days. So if you want to be kind of the hero in your family and you happen to have a New York Times subscription, every week you can curate like a meal plan and send it out to your family, and they have 30 days to look at it. And same thing with articles from The Athletic, Neil. So if you're a sports fan, you can do that. You can be the hero of your group chats if you're
I didn't
trying
know they
to that.
opened up
Yeah,
the other sections. That's
yeah,
incredible. Those
yeah.
were even the Athletic was actually difficult to share in the past. They didn't really have a good share link for those stories.
Yeah, now they're doing that. Crucial resources for understanding mass media frameworks, more discussion of every outlet's priorities and methods make for smarter audiences, says Walter Grayson. Walter, thank you for stepping in while I was gone last week. I was in LA for work and to also watch John Mellencamp concert, the Indiana born rocker from the 80s and 90s. And Neil, there were 17,000 people at the Hollywood Bowl. And I thought I'd be the only person of color there. But there were a lot of folks of all colors watching John Mellencamp and the Hollywood Bowl. Oh my God. I want everybody who can to go to a show there. It is an open air amphitheater in LA where some of the biggest acts in the world come. And it's very reasonable pricing, and people bring sandwiches and food, and it's so much fun. So I encourage everybody to do that. Speaking of amphitheaters, this week I also got to see The Winter's Tale at Shakespeare in the Park. Free Shakespeare in New York City in Central Park at the Delacorte Theater. That was also amazing. So I've kind of re-fallen in love with outdoor theater and outdoor theaters and outdoor performances in the summer. And that also only reminds me that we're running out of summer here, at least in North America. Ellen says, escalation device? Yeah, right. Just hope people don't give in and elect T as a dictator. That's what he's aiming for. Frightening times here. And Walter says, Mary C. Curtis, the global right has maintained a sustained assault on Black scholars as a response to the Black Lives Matter protests. So important to acknowledge that. After I send recipes for my family, will they make it for me? Oh, that's so
Interesting.
funny. That is so funny.
And
Walter
for
says that,
Walter,
yeah.
yes, go ahead.
The Times gift article menu reminds me of online hashtags like Scholar Sunday, where you're giving out information that's curated so that people can jump in. And we have we on YouTube sometimes we get really crazy comments and trolls. And the beauty of our system here is that we don't have to put them on the screen. But I'm going to do one just to show you that there are racists in the world. We're having a civil, smart, important conversation about issues like Black scholarship, Black excellence, Black Lives Matter. Just hearing that word triggers people. And BLM equals racism. You know, this is the people who believe that you say something, they'll say all lives matter. You know, these kinds of things, they just don't understand the role that being a minority in any setting. And I say this in settings having to do with India, where everyone is Indian, but within there are majorities and minorities, right? So in any circumstance, my work around trying to end all male panels, though we are an all male panel here, but not a true panel, was because I had the privilege of being male and fighting for ending all male panel. So everybody has responsibility. Everybody has to step up.
One note, Sri, it's not just on YouTube. It's not necessarily fringe comments, but I want to share that I was in a discussion once around funding opportunities, and Black Lives. This was during in 2020, I think it was. Black Lives Matter was more prominently in the news. They came up as a potential recipient of funds, and someone in a committee meeting said, "Well, wait a minute. We our restrictions. We're not allowed to support terrorist groups. Wouldn't Black Lives Matter fall under that category?" And I just looked over and I was dumbfounded that they were branding Black Lives Matter as a terrorist group in a in-person meeting, not a behind the safety of a YouTube comment.
Wow. So I mean, we see this. We know this stuff happens. By the way, Miriam saying, "Did you know one of you is wearing pink and the other blue?" We did not notice that.
It,
We did. So thank you for thank you for
Miriam,
noticing.
that's interesting. You should say that. I do want to point out that this actually is an interesting point, because I had a friend of ours whose daughter associated pink with girls, and that family was very careful about kind of gender roles and kind of assumptions. But the only pink shirt in the family, there was one pink shirt. She was the only one that had one. So she associated with girls. It wasn't like all her clothes were pink. When Emily was younger, I made it a point, Sri. Now, I don't often wear different colors. I'm pretty neutral with my choices, but I made it a point to buy a pink shirt when she was younger and wear it specifically to show her that guys can wear pink as well. I'm not as cool as you. I can't pull off the red pants, but at least I can wear a pink shirt
Or
every
the
now
pink
and then.
pants, the which my mother-in-law hated. By the way, this was bought in Minneapolis when I was there a couple of months ago. $15 at Target, which now I know I shouldn't have shopped at. I was chastised by my family for shopping at Target because of their attitude on some of their corporate stances. But I want to tell Walter that I'm going to be back in Minneapolis in September and would love to say hello and connect. I know that's a busy time of year for professors. Very quickly now, we're almost out of show already. How did that happen? We're having too much fun. Let's quickly. This is the New York Times Magazine cover, and it says, "Will Larry Ellison be the face of the AI bubble?" Knowing his disproportionate influence in American media, as well as now with TikTok and buying CNN and all of the stuff that he's doing, CBS News, he and his son. If he is the reason, if he's the face of AI, that's another issue where he has way too much power. Here is the book review. And it says, "One Last Job, Cool Machine, the final installment of Colson Whitehead's Harlem Crime trilogy is full of heists, cultural shifts, and pining for 1980s New York." Well, I know somebody famous who loves 1980s New York, and that's Donald Trump, but he's not going to read this because he doesn't read. But otherwise, that would have been kind of fun for him to read that. Arts and Leisure cover is "A Museum Looks Back at the Original Rough Riders." And this is Michael Kimmelman's review of what's happening at the Teddy Roosevelt Library in Medora, North Dakota. The real estate cover is "The Return of the Vanity." After fading from American homes, the dressing table is back as TikTok influencers discover a stage for their beauty routines. When I hear vanity or I think of vanity case, I remember from my mom, there were little like tiny suitcases that women would carry that had makeup in it. That's what I think of as a vanity case from my mom's days. But this is what they mean is a dressing table. And you can see what they're doing here in the real estate cover. The Metropolitan cover is "Day Trips to Other Worlds." As summer winds down, close-by excursions can transport you to a Russian lunch, a hammock grove, or the 1960s. This is the Metropolitan cover. So if you want things to do in New York, and a political push for steamy havens. What does that mean? After 4 decades, should cities' bathhouses, right, once again be allowed to offer space safe spaces for sex. Uh, that's something that was, again, from the 1980s. Neil, I feel like we're hearing 1980s stories. The Sunday Opinion cover is "The Persecution of Trans People in Kansas Should Alarm Us All" by M. Gesson. Look at the treatment that they're able to give in
Yeah.
these stories.
Well, we'll
Go ahead.
definitely have to take a look at that. I do want to bring up one other conversation, Sri, that was an article inspired by an article. This question of young versus old. It's coming up in mostly around the Democratic primaries, where younger politicians are challenging octogenarians, 80-year-olds, and winning. Um, in this case, Ed Markey in Massachusetts, it's interesting, Sri, because it's the older politician is more progressive than the younger one. But I was curious about how this is playing out for others, because I can see how this would be an issue. This whole question of older people are out of touch and they don't have their finger on the pulse, that this would play out in corporate America. This could play out in medicine. I know that with Dr. Roy and Sujana often watches social media. Is it a young person's game? I mean, do people like you and I know what we're doing with social media anymore? Is it only? I mean, and no, nothing against Durga, she's great, but do you have to be 20 something to really be able to rock it in social media? What are your thoughts on that, Sri? If you're
Yeah, I mean,
gonna
this is, yeah, I'm
weigh
actually writing my newsletter about the Democratic Party and what's happening there. And one of the sources of infighting is, of course, this particular issue as well. So I think that young people have always been better at some aspects of technology, but not all. But social media in particular, the way they're able to jump onto trends, talk to each other, amplify each other, has given them that power. And I think that's great. But of course, it's not easy to keep track. Miriam says that Ronnie Sanders is in his mid 80s. And there's a
Bernie,
lot.
of course?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sorry, Bernie Sanders is in his mid 80s, right? And there's a lot going on to talk about. Okay, last few things before we go. We want to tell you in a minute about our next guest. We're very excited, but before that, just the Sunday Styles cover is the best clothing stores in New York City. See, sounds like there's a lot of New York City stories this week on the covers. Often it's much more national. And what
Yeah.
does big tech owe the public? Such an important question. As AI millionaires at stake, with AI trillions at stake, political pressure is mounting to share the wealth. And this is where I want to just remind everybody about my newsletter, which goes out on Sundays. I'm working on it right after this to finish up. And what we did this amazing show, What I Learned About Stroke and Stroke Survivors. Neil and I worked on this with our friend Mukul Pandya. But this was my piece last week. The AI giants are consuming everything, an old school strategy for these cutting edge companies. If the AI bubble bursts, there'll be government bailouts. There'll only be lifeboats for us billionaires, says somebody who looks like he's out of the old Monopoly game, and tells you. So srinet.substack.com, srinet.substack.com. Please subscribe. If you subscribe, please open. If you can afford to get a membership, we're doing a lot of cool events just for our paid subscribers. The main stuff will always be free, but we're doing in-person salons and virtual salons for people who are our members. So please support us. And now, Neil, a chance for you to tell us about next week's guest.
Yeah, we have some great announcements to share with you. Next week on the read along, we have Ingvild Bryn Rambel. She is the head of information for the Nobel Peace Center, and we're having her on because on September 3rd, there is an event that they're hosting, the Nobel Peace Conference and Festival, Democracy on the Brink. It's in person in Oslo and online. Sri will be a co-host. I think this is the third year that Sri has been the co-host. I help with the production behind the scenes, but it will be an incredible experience. And we certainly encourage you to watch. Ingvild will join us on the read along from Oslo next Sunday to talk about the event, to talk about the news, her perspective from Europe. which is always appreciated. So please make sure to join us then. I also want to make sure that, again, to remind you about the Jaipur Literature Festival. It's coming to North America in September and October. And Sri, we keep talking about September, October. September is just a couple of weeks away. It's getting
Yes.
close. North Carolina, Los Angeles, Seattle, Colorado, Toronto, New York, and Houston. So please check that out. We have more information you can get at tinyurl JLF USA. I'll share that in Facebook for folks and run it underneath as well. And then after that, I want to make sure that folks know about Shining Light on Shadows, which is and there's the URL, tinyurl.com JLF USA. I also want to let folks know about Shining Light on Shadows, a candid conversation about mental health. Last week, we did a show focusing on mental health and clutter. And I haven't shared these pictures on social media yet. Sri, I might. But during the show, I shared how personal this was for me because my office is an absolute mess. And it's very embarrassing, very frustrating. You don't see it because I'm strategic about where my mess is and where my camera is. When you see my office, you see the wall behind me. You don't see what's in front. You don't see what's blocked by my chair. But when I shared it on the shows, so many people watching shared their own challenges with clutter. It was very cathartic and very helpful. Our next show coming up August 27th is going to be even more special. I was able to find an incredible guest to talk about mental health and social media. You might have a sense of who this is. Srinivasan will be my guest. I'm going to interview Sri on Shining Light on Shadows, August 27th, the mental health impacts of social media on teens and adults. Sri, you've talked about this for a number of years, and you were very focused on not just your own social media habits as a guru. I mean, you've been teaching social media back when it was new media, but also trying to balance it with your kids at home in terms of making sure they see a proper balance. Can you share a few quick thoughts today, just because you've written about this so often?
Sure. So we'll preview two of the shows. The one next week with Ingwill. Everybody, please
Yes.
tune in. A chance to hear from somebody associated with the Nobel Prizes, and it's the honor of my lifetime to be associated and to work on the Nobel Peace Conference. And I know Neil loves being involved in the production part of it as well. So we'll be doing that next Sunday here on this show. So please tune in. And then on September 3rd, you can tune in and watch live on all the channels and, of course, a recording. And then to Neil's show on August 27th, it's all about social media and kids. Here's the headlines that I will be talking about. The thing that I believe from all the research I've seen and watching not just my children, but children around the world, that every 6 months you can delay your children getting on social media, you get a year plus of good mental health on the other side when they get older. So that itself should be enough for you to convince you, if you're a parent of young children, to keep them away from this stuff. My nephew, who is 13 in Dubai, they've just introduced a ban of social media till the age of 16, copying what's happening down in Australia. And so these are all the things we're going to get in on, and talk about on Neil's show on August 27th. But join us August 23rd for our episode with Ingvill from the Nobel Prize. Nobel Peace Center, as we talk about the Nobel Peace Conference, which will have 4 Nobel laureates speaking. It's the final event of the Nobel calendar. And Walter says that conference is a beacon for freedom. Thank you so much for saying that. It means a lot. We appreciate everybody who watches the show. We have to say goodbye. Thank you very much. Check out all the links that Neil gives away, the gift links. right in the digimentors.group website. And please follow us. And if you can support us through patreon.com/3net, please do so. If you're a member of our newsletter, please do so. All of this to support our various shenanigans that we do online every week for all of you. Thank you very much, everybody. Neil, we'll let you say goodbye.
If you joined us late, remember you can watch the show from the beginning on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and our Digimentors website on the same links where you're watching from now. It'll take a moment for the video to reset, and then you can catch the very beginning of the show. Thank you again for joining us. We hope that you join us next week. Ingvil from the Nobel Peace Center will join us, and we'll talk about democracy on the brink and the Nobel Peace Conference and Festival, which will take place September 3rd. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.